What's going on, YouTube? We're going to put together a little compilation of videos to help you with Streamlabs OBS and OBS in general. A couple of different things that I struggled with that I wished people had told me about when I started streaming that I think you guys could really use the information on. And this is Streamlabs tips and tricks on a budget. So the first thing that you're going to want to pay attention to is your audio and video. This is the first video in all of this, so I want to get right down to the very first impression, which is what people are going to see when they come into your stream for the first time. If you're watching your own VODs, that's going to be your audio, your video, and gameplay doesn't so much matter. As long as the stream is there in the background, you're going to be okay. What do they sound like? Is there a lot of crowded overlays? Is there a bunch of noise? Can I hear their chat? Can I hear their gameplay? Can I hear them talking to me? Can I see them? Cameras range in 1,000 different directions. Did they actually take the time to set up their camera settings? Is there something that they could do better? Obviously, you care enough that you're here, so I want to give you some pointers that might make your audio and video better. And we'll simplify it. We'll go into more detail on some of how the software works and what you should adjust. But for now, we're going to go basics, and I'm going to show you exactly what to do to get everything set up. Okay, so the first thing you want to pay attention to, we're going to install Streamlabs OBS. If you haven't made it this far, there's two different versions of OBS software that I would recommend. There is Streamlabs, which is the easier of the two, and then there's regular OBS. Streamlabs has a lot of built-in things that you can do that we'll talk about later, versus OBS where you'll have to use a lot of source code and kind of be a little more techie involved, whereas this is just kind of copy and paste and you can run it pretty smooth. Let's just, for stream's sake, go in and hypothetically say we created a brand new scene, which would look kind of like this right here. You would name the scene, and I absolutely recommend that you name your scenes. And then you would name it, let's name it computer, right? So now at this point, we're going to add sources. Now I can't delete any of my sources because then I can't record. But effectively, we're going to create an audio input capture. Now the reason I do this instead of using what the Streamlabs actually dictates as my default device is because when Windows updates or Streamlabs updates take over, they default everything back to what Windows says is the default input device. And your Windows settings, you could change that at any given time. I can make it my microphone, I can make it my headset, I can make it any number of these things, and that would make this default device right here anything that Windows has defaulted. So that being said, you can set this up separately with its own filters, and this will never change. It will always look for that source on the input. So again, audio input capture, you want to find your microphone. This is Voicemeeter. Now, Voicemeeter is the #1 recommended software for making a $50 microphone sound like it's a $200 microphone. It's a mixer that takes your hardware input, being my Q9 condenser microphone, cost about $50, running it through the mixer, and then out a virtual cable on the other side. So this is essentially like the USB cable that you would plug into the back of your computer to make the microphone work. But this is a virtual input. So now we need to go in here and select VB audio cable as our input. Now we'll go into more detail on what settings I recommend for the Voicemeeter software. But for the most part, monitoring yourself is the #1 recommendation I have for using that software. Now, once you have your input, you want to play some filters on it. Now, this is separate from the Voicemeeter software that I showed you. Streamlabs itself needs to have a noise gate, noise suppression, compressor, limiter. All of these things go hand in hand with your environment. So what I recommend is that you try to update these settings based off of peak time. Like when the kids are home from school, the dogs are barking outside, cars driving by at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, things like that. so you can kind of drown those out. Try to get the best environment you can for when you would be streaming. Make it as similar as possible. Now, these are just the settings that I run personally for what I've got going on. They will vary from person to person, and depending on how loud you talk, how close you are to your microphone, these will have to be adjusted according to that. Now, if you want to do this all on your own and you don't want to try to run exactly the settings I'm running, I would recommend that you go into your mixer and turn monitor and output on for your microphone. By doing so, you can now have a monitor of your voice in real time under your settings down here on the left, under audio and advanced settings. So my headset is my monitor device, and now I can play back whatever filters I adjust here in real time. Every time I adjust it, I get to hear what the volume's doing. The idea is to make your microphone pick up what you're saying without anything after that. So we'll go into more detail of what these do, but essentially all of them have their own purpose, and I highly recommend you run filters because condenser microphones, as cheap as they are, pick up a lot of background noise. Everything in the room, the neighbors, the upstairs, somebody sneezing. So the next portion is your camera. And right now I'm in landscape mode. I've kind of broken what I had. Now, I don't recommend that you hang a bunch of lights up and have a bunch of things going on. Maybe lightly show your computer on to the side, or maybe some pictures or a guitar or something that's just subtle, that doesn't take away from you, the streamer, and that makes for a good environment for when you go full screen or while you're playing the game. Now, some people will set up outlines on their box or their camera. I, however, have been running a green screen for a long time, so anything that I do is typically coming through with the game as my backdrop. If you haven't got a really decent camera, I would recommend IV Cam software. It's an app in iOS or Android, Google Play, that it's about $9, and it can make any cell phone a webcam. There's also a tool developer mode that you can tether, and I would recommend that you tether directly to the computer using USB and turn the Wi-Fi off. You can use it through Wi-Fi, but it gets a little buggy. I would recommend tethering directly, which is what I do. So once you have that, you can use any other webcam. Logitech makes a 720 camera, I believe it's called. I'm using a Note 20. So I'm going to go into my filters, and the first filter I put on here automatically is color correction. Again, this varies environment to environment, and depending on your lighting, it could change. You could have 7 lights, 2 lights, 1 light. You could just be using the ceiling light, the ceiling fan in your bedroom that wobbles around. I wouldn't recommend that. But what you want to look at is how balanced is your facial lighting? How pale do you look? Adjust these sliders and try to come up with balance out your facial features. You don't want a lot of dark areas. If you have a good backdrop, don't overlight that up compared to you. Contrast, hue shift, things like that, which we can go into more detail in another video. But to just set it up, try to play with the color correction first. And if you have a decent enough room, try to make your background as clean as possible. Camera box around your outline, if you have a backdrop, is recommended, so it doesn't look like it's just a hard cut. But if you are like me and you don't have a nice room, I run a green screen, which requires the chroma key filter. Now, a chroma key is pretty easy to use, and as soon as you turn it on, it's going to find the color that you set, in which case mine is pretty dark green. You can set it up to anything similar to that green. I have my settings at 395 because I have about 7 lights, and that's important to do. You want to be as far away from your green screen as you possibly can be and have it as well lit as possible. And I'm talking about even lighting. So I have a light over here, which is a full photography light, a light above me that's backdrop light right onto the green screen back here, and then key light, 3 light, and a desk light that I can turn on at any time. So you also want to pay attention to your camera positioning. Do you have a bad posture, or do you have some weird chin thing going on? Do you not look up at certain angles. You know, looking up at the camera is key. So I think having a dead center right above your gameplay, if you're a gamer, or right above your chat when you align your monitors, is going to help you kind of interact with your chat better, interact with your stream, and keep people attentive to what you're saying. Eye contact is like the focal point when using a camera on stream. Don't spend too much time talking into a monitor or talking into your chat box. Try to look up every now and then, and don't underestimate the, you know, one-on-one conversations and just chatting. So I hope you found this video informative. If you did, make sure to hit the subscribe button, like this video, and check us out. We stream on Twitch 9 p.m. Eastern, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we like to talk about some of this tech stuff during stream. It's a really good time. So again, look forward to more videos. Make sure you have the notifications turned on so you don't miss anything. And if I don't see you, stay average.